before we go on to the next speaker, I just want to ask if anybody has the answer for the question I asked. Why don't leaves don't get cancer? Skin cancer? So, what? They don't smoke, yeah. Well, they're exposed to so much of the sun rays, so they're naturally built with a defense of not getting cancer because they are loaded with antioxidants. So that works for us in our meal plan, in how we choose our meals. If we need to avoid cancer, any type of cancer, we just need to follow what the leaves are doing and eat the leaves. So, not all leaves. So, to talk about how to make eating green leafy vegetables more desirable and delicious, next up we have Nicole Cormier, a registered dietitian. Nicole Cormier is the owner of Delicious Living Nutrition Practice. She's the co-owner of the cold pressed juice company, the Local Juice and Pantry. Nicole earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Human Nutrition from the UMass Amherst and completed a postgraduate dietetic internship at Beth Israel Deaconess in Boston. Her passion for local food is included in her nutrition counseling, consulting, and education. Nicole has partnered with Emerald Physicians in many of our community projects and has been a regular in our wellness trails in the past years. So we are so happy to have Nicole share her wisdom here. And so without further ado, Nicole will share more about how to include antioxidant-rich foods in our regular meals, because it's always best to get the antioxidants through food rather than from supplements and pills. Without further ado, Nicole, thank you.
Very excited to be here again today. So in order to nutritionally support your senses, you have to get the nutrients to your cells, to those organs for anything to happen. So if we want to eat certain foods that are going to be good for our eyes or our skin or our hearing, there's quite a journey that the nutrients have to go to in order to do its job. So I'd like to ask you a favor today to trust me and allow me to bring you on the journey of a nutrient. So in order to connect to your senses for this to happen, I'd like to ask you to close your eyes just for a minute as I walk you through and try to see if you can visualize the nutrients actually getting to your cells. So first, you can think of, close your eyes, try to connect. Visualize soil, dirt, whether it's on a farm or your backyard or just a small pot that's in your house. Nutrients are found in the soil. They don't just appear in the produce that we consume. So the nutrients are going from the soil, and then you can visualize them being absorbed through the roots of the plant. Now they have to travel through the stem, which is the nutritional highway. Then they go out to the produce. Then that produce has to be harvested. It may have to travel. It may have to travel several miles if you're not choosing something that's in season, able to get locally. So either a farmer or you are harvesting that produce. Then that produce has to be prepared. So whether it's in a kitchen or a restaurant, then that produce has to be, or food has to be consumed. After it's consumed, it has to start going through the digestive process. So it's traveling through your esophagus, it's going into your stomach, then it's going into your small intestines, where each specific vitamin and mineral have to go through a specific door in your small intestines in order for it then to be traveling throughout the rest of your body to the cells. Then the nutrient has to go through this specific door that's in your cell, get put into your cell, and then it can start doing its job of, healing, protecting, etc. So it's quite a bit. You guys can open your eyes now. Thank you so much. And that's probably the most important when I work with clients. It's not about following a diet. It's not about just eating this food because it's good for your eyes. It's about establishing your own individual nutrition practice, because everything we choose to consume throughout the day is going to impact how well your body can absorb vitamins and minerals in order to help your eyes, your skin, and your hearing. So I want to just have you take that with you today of how are you eating throughout the day? Are you supporting your body to be able to utilize all of these vitamins and minerals so that you can reap all of the benefits of them? So we already connected to your senses. One other thing, tool that I wanted to share with you today that I do with several of my clients, and I see some of you today, so thanks for coming. We practice breathing before eating, whether it's before breakfast or lunch or dinner. Just doing a 3-part breathing can help you ground yourself, connect internally, because a nutrition practice is not an external thing. We focus on a lot of external things throughout the day, and a real healthy nutrition practice is really going internally and figuring out what your body needs right now, what do you need right now, whether it's food or maybe something else that's nourishing and nurturing. So the 3-part breathing you can do before any meal. You start with just seating yourself, or you could do it standing, but really making sure that your feet are rooted into the ground. We didn't do any breathing today, so I figured I'd throw it into mine. So you start with inhaling through your nose, but when you inhale, your belly is going to rise first. And then your ribs are going to start expanding. Then your shoulders go back, and you feel like you're growing nice and tall. And you try to breathe in as much oxygen as you can. And on the exhale, you're exhaling through your nose, but it's coming from the back of your throat. And by doing that, it kind of sounds like you're Darth Vader, a little bit. By doing that, you're stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system, so it automatically brings calmness. Oftentimes when we're eating throughout the day, we're worrying about something that happened previously or going through our to-do list that we have to do for the rest of the day. And that all is going to affect how your body's functioning, especially when it's supposed to be absorbing your vitamins and minerals to get to your cells. So I'll demonstrate it once, and feel free to either join me. It will feel nice, I promise. So inhale through your nose. So did anyone join me? Okay. Feel free to keep doing it. It will automatically, again, bring you to center, and it will help support your digestion. So those are some of the tools that I like to work with my clients. We're also going to go over a lot of minerals, nutrients that support all of your hearing, your skin, and your vision. But again, if it doesn't get to your cells, then it's not going to support those things. I brought a variety of different foods up here with me today that I'm going to explain how I like to use them and how my clients like to use them throughout their practices. And most importantly, how to incorporate them throughout your day. It's really important. Remember I said that each vitamin and mineral have a specific door to go through. So if you only have them once a day, all those vitamins and minerals are going to be competing with each other. So it's really important to try your best to spread them out throughout the day, starting with breakfast, making sure that you have some type of fruit or vegetable, any type of produce into your breakfast. The same with lunch, the same with snacks, the same with dinners. So just think about, doing a quick evaluation to see where you're at with your nutrition practice and how you can make small shifts that are really going to make a huge difference at the end of the day. So I decided to highlight just specific minerals, potassium, folic acid, magnesium, zinc to talk about today, and hopefully we can continue to make those connections. The slides look a little different, but we'll go quickly through the top part. So just connecting to, what is potassium doing in your body? It's regulating the fluid in your blood and your body tissue. It's important for your hearing health because fluid in the inner ear, that part of the ear that translates noises we hear into electrical impulses, the brain and interprets as sound. And as we age, that naturally drops, which is a contributing factor for presbycusis. Thank you. I asked her earlier and then I forgot. So just a natural age-related hearing loss. It's also a key player in cell integrity by maintaining electrolyte balance and internal fluid, so keeping the cells hydrated and the skin internally moisturized. So my favorite part is really going over, okay, we know that background, but on a daily basis, what can we focus on in order to support and utilize the potassium to its potential? And that starts at maybe a farm, maybe the grocery store, and getting these types of produce into your kitchen so that you can consume them. So I have some dark leafy greens. I tried to visually make this appealing because it is about the experience. So first off, some of my favorite greens, especially this time of year, so it's spring. Yay! Dandelion greens. So I'm going to try to work very good with the video. Dandelion greens, they're a little bit bitter. However, if you put them into a soup or you can leave them in water and then quickly saute them, you're going to get a little bit of that bitterness out. However, when something is bitter, that's actually a really good sign because it helps with your digestion. So all of our dark leafy greens have secondary metabolites in them that automatically support your digestion. It helps support the enzymes to break down your food, which helps the delivery process of getting those minerals to your cells. But dandelion greens, you could get them in the grocery store or you could get them in your backyard, as long as you don't use any harmful pesticides on your lawn. So dandelion greens are one of my favorite greens, especially in the spring, to start incorporating into my nutrition practice. Another one that I love to incorporate is kale. So there's different types of kale. This kale is my particular favorite. I like to call it dinosaur kale. Not that I've ever seen a dinosaur, but it does remind me of some type of a reptile skin. And everyone's welcome to come up to the table so you can touch and feel, use your senses. And that's also important, actually, to think about when you eat, is to take that moment to connect with your food. Maybe feel it if you can. Definitely smell it. Slow down and make sure that you're using all of your senses while you eat and feeling what it feels like in your mouth before you send it down to the digestive system. But this is the softest type of kale. It also is less bitter. You can simply chop it up. I like to sometimes use a little bit of olive oil, and if I don't feel like cooking it, I can actually massage the kale, and it makes a really great salad. Or you could start your meal off by putting greens on your plate first and then put your warm food over your greens, so then they wilt just perfectly. So lots of different ways to incorporate greens. My next is collard greens. I guess I keep saying, in my head at least, I'm like, oh, this is my favorite. This is my favorite. Dark leafy greens are so many varieties, but the collard green is another one of my favorites. And my favorite way to incorporate them is to actually utilize it as a wrap. So if you wanted to do that, you would just take the green and kind of cut off the stem part, and it's very sturdy. You can use it in place of a tortilla. You can put your grain down, so something like quinoa or brown rice, farro, any of the whole grains. You could put vegetables, then you could choose your protein to put in, and then literally just fold it up like a burrito or any tortilla. So really easy, very versatile. If there's leaves that you get in your bunch that aren't, tortilla quality, then you can simply slice them and saute them and mix them into your other meals. Next is Swiss chard. So there's a couple different varieties of Swiss chard. This is one of my favorites because it's very colorful. And that's one other thing to keep in mind. So if you feel like you eat the same produce over and over and over, I have lots of clients that can tell me what produce they eat on one hand. If you are one of those, definitely try to work on expanding the variety of fruits and vegetables that you're getting, because you're going to support your digestion and your body's ability to become more resilient and get more of those vitamins and minerals to your ears, your skin, and your eyes. So the stems of these are very colorful. Swiss chard is very unique to the dark leafy greens. It has a higher sodium content, so it has a little bit more of a flavor to it. It tastes dramatically different to most people when it's fresh versus cooked. When it's fresh, sometimes people get a little bit of it's like a super bite to it. If you saute it, that softens. So that's something important to keep in mind. Sometimes people actually feel a little sensation in their mouths when they have it raw, but they don't when they have it cooked. So I like to chop it up. If you can use olive oil if you wanted to, but you can also use a little bit of water. How I usually cook with water is I just start off by adding just a small layer of water on the bottom of my pan and throw my vegetables in. And as I see the water start to go into the vegetables and evaporate, I start adding a little bit more as needed. So nothing actually ends up sticking to the pan and you didn't have to use any oil. Cabbage is another one of my favorite things to use. I do love fermented foods too, so if you are interested in that, that's something else. It's a whole new experience, different flavor profiles. They have a lot of fermented vegetables now in the grocery store, so you can try. There's a really great brand in Western Mass called Real Pickles that are pretty much in the majority of the grocery stores. A great thing to utilize cabbage with is you could, again, use it as cups. So for taco night, instead of doing a corn tortilla, if you wanted to, you could, let's see if I can do this delicately. You just peel off one layer. And then you can use this to put either your grain, veggies, and your protein, and you could, make a little platter for them. It's a really great, easy way. And as you utilize the leaves as cups, then the inside you could chop up and make your own slaw with it if you wanted to. All right, great. So those are the greens. Oh boy, okay. Let's put that one in the back. I did want to highlight another one, winter squash. So butternut squash we have up here. In your bags, we I wanted to share one of my favorite recipes with you, utilizing, you can use any type of vegetables that you could cut to make into layers, but it's called the butternut lasagna. And it really is a very versatile recipe that you can use as a template. And you can add any of your own vegetables to them. But you start off by, this particular one, you start off by using a butternut squash, and you would cut it into pieces so it actually becomes the noodle part of your lasagna. And then instead of just like cheese as a layer, instead there's a new concept that I'd like to share of creating more of a cashew cheese. So you're taking cashews, water, some garlic, lemon. There's an ingredient on here called nutritional yeast, and it just adds a nutty, cheesy flavor, but it's a derivative from baker's yeast, and it has a lot of B12 in it. So there's this whole new concept that you could create your own cashew cheese that will fit into the layers of your vegetable before you put it into the oven to bake. Another way is to make your own pesto, so you can take kale or other types of greens and throw it into a blender or a food processor with some garlic, the nutritional yeast, some olive oil, and some salt and pepper if you wanted to, and you can make your own kale pesto as well. The cashew cheese and the kale pesto doesn't have to go into your lasagna. You could do all different types of things with it. So something really easy that you can put together that's very nutrient dense and incorporate throughout your day into several different meals. I think I'm doing, oh, did I? Okay. Technical difficulties. So folic acid is next. It's a critical element in your body's ability to generate new cell growth. So all of those dark leafy greens that we had already mentioned, crucial for creating new cell growth. So again, just a handful, a pinch, any little amount is going to help support that. It has been shown adults with low levels of folic acid in their blood are more likely to develop that natural aging of the auditory system. And some studies have shown folic acid supplements may slow hearing loss. However, like Dr. Sid mentioned before, it's really always best to go towards your fresh vegetables and fruits in order to support absorbing those vitamins and minerals. The body uses folic acid to metabolize homocysteine, an inflammatory compound reduces circulation, and good circulation is an important component in keeping the hair cells of the inner ear healthy and properly working. Concentrations of antioxidants that work to reduce levels of oxidative stress in the skin, as well as neutralize harmful free radicals that are present in the environment. So again, connecting why you're eating the food while you're eating it is a really great healthy thing to invite into your nutrition practice. So you're creating a different experience with your food and a level of appreciation of what it's doing for your body. Lots of different nuts have folic acid in it: sunflower seeds, flax seeds, almonds, a lot of different legumes, which is anything grown into a pod. So all of your different beans, lentils, garbanzo beans, so incorporating some of those as your protein throughout the day. So a really great shift in your practice is to invite and experiment with different plant proteins in place of some animal proteins, because plant proteins and all plants are always going to help reduce the inflammation in your body. And any response that your body is surfacing, like a headache or symptoms with your ears, that is inflammation, and by incorporating more plants, you're going to help your body reduce it automatically. If you wanted to incorporate beans, you can, if you're not a bean eater, you can start with canned beans if you wanted to. I do recommend that you choose a BPA-free canned brand of beans, and then you're just going to rinse them and incorporate a half a cup is equal to as a protein for that particular meal. So that would be the portion. Lentils, it's really fun. Has anyone here sprouted lentils? Couple, great. It is a great experience. All of my clients that take on that challenge always come back full of excitement and full of smiles. So it's very easy to do. You're gonna I like to sprout green lentils. And so you put them in a jar. You could do a half a cup, a full cup, and you just cover them with water. Overnight, the next day, you dump out the water, you rinse, and then you just put them back into the jar. And every day, you just give them a rinse once or twice throughout the day. And by day 3 or 4, you're going to see all of these little tails just sprout out the side of the lentil. So you've basically just woken up the lentil and, brought it to life, which oftentimes is easier to digest. But again, it is about the experience as well, and you're going to get different flavors and different textures to your senses when you choose to eat different foods in a variety of different ways. And that's what's really important. When I ask my clients if they like a specific food, sometimes, like if they do you like beets? And they're like, ugh, I hate beets. And oftentimes it's because they only experienced having that beet one way, and sometimes it was 25 years ago. It's a common one in the office. So we work on creating new experiences with eating beets or lentils or whatever it may be, and then you end up building a better relationship with it, and then you get all of the benefits that it has to offer you. Broccoli. So broccoli is really also high in folic acid. It's really great to, again, I grew up with my parents just having steamed broccoli, which wasn't really exciting for me. And I didn't really get excited to eat it. But I love it now because I like to do all different things with it. I love roasting broccoli. I like putting it into grain dishes. So if just sauteing it and then adding it into a brown rice dish. So lots of different ways to do it, especially with cauliflower as well, which is very similar shaped. You can do mashed cauliflower, roasted cauliflower. Now you can make it into cauliflower rice, which you just take with the raw cauliflower, and you can chop it up really small or put it through a food processor, and then now it's like rice. And you can quickly saute it and add other vegetables to it. Don't forget your protein, and have a completely different experience than, just having steamed cauliflower, which is nothing wrong with it. Fennel. Fennel is another one of my favorites and has a licorice scent and flavor to it, which again creates a different experience. You can grill it, you can roast it, you can saute it. It goes really well with a lot of different protein dishes. These guys, usually you chop off the tops, and there's a core in the bottom, so you just cut around that and slice it and then utilize it. You don't have to throw away the tops. You can put them into smoothies, or you can be fancy, and before you plate your meal, you can, use the frills as a garnish. Again, very appealing to the eyesight. So don't throw away the tops. You can utilize them in lots of different ways. Or if you're making the kale pesto, that would be another example of just taking some of these and throwing them into the mix. Garlic is really great to use as a flavor enhancer, but it also has a lot of antioxidants in it as well. Okay, our next mineral is magnesium. And magnesium regulates blood pressure, blood sugar, muscles, nerve function. It helps the blood vessels relax, bone development, and transporting potassium. Some scientists believe magnesium combats the effects of free radicals emitted during loud noises. A lack of adequate magnesium in the inner ear causes the blood vessels to shrink, depriving it of valuable oxygen. And magnesium helps to reduce stress-related skin irritations. So again, looking at the foods that we can focus on in order to do that, again, dark leafy greens, always really important. Avocado, that's one of my other favorite foods on my grocery list. So the key with avocado, the one thing my clients usually say is, well, it goes bad before I can use it. So I buy 3. I buy one soft one that I'm going to start using that night, and a portion to think about when incorporating avocados is a 4th. A 4th is a good amount to either add the healthy addition to whatever your meal is, so you can add it on top. You could put it even on your toast. It'd be the trend, avocado toast. The second, you would buy 1 soft and 2 firm. So you use up the soft one first. Then the second one I put in a paper bag and leave it on my counter, so the next day or the day after it's going to be ripe. And then the third one I leave on my counter, so that by the time I'm done with the first 2, that one's ready to go. So a lot of nutrition practices, how to incorporate in a sustainable way and reduce food waste. I was just at the Massachusetts Dietetic Association conference on Friday, and one of the talks was food waste. And we went from the average family wasting $600 worth of food every year to $1,400. That's a lot of food. So oftentimes it's really important to figure out ways to sustainably incorporate some of these very nutrient-dense foods into your practices. And not feeling like you have to follow recipes, I highly, strongly encourage my clients and everyone to practice more of that internal, intuitive nutrition practice where you are utilizing what you have in your pantry. And if you have a recipe in mind, maybe instead use it as a template. And you can actually practice with the butternut lasagna. And if you don't have some of those ingredients, see if you have some similar ones, or use the produce that you already have in your refrigerator. Okay. Zinc. Zinc is our next one, and it boosts your body's immune system. It's responsible for cell growth. It's really great for healing wounds. It's helpful in warding off germs, and it may be effective in treating tinnitus. Great, okay, I'm working on it. So these are some of the foods, again, nuts, so your cashew cheese or pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds are a really great protein if you, for breakfast, thinking of putting a nutrient complete oatmeal. A lot of my clients will come and I'll say, what do you have for breakfast? Oatmeal. But it's just the oats. So you really want to make sure that you have all 3 parts at your breakfast, where you have a protein source, you have a whole grain source, and you have your produce source, whether it's coming from fruits or vegetables. So when you focus on those type of formulas at your meals, what's happening is you're creating a partnership with proteins and fibers, And those two things together help slow the rate of the food turning into blood sugar. So it comes in nice and balanced. Then your pancreas can produce the right amount of insulin that becomes the vessel for making the delivery of the vitamins and minerals to your cells. So that process is really important. And if you're just having oats for breakfast, then it's not complete and you're not supporting your body to work at its optimal level. So pumpkin seeds, a fourth of a cup would be a full protein to add to your breakfast. Or your almonds. Peanut butter is a great protein. If you still are having a peanut butter that has hydrogenated oils, please make the shift. So just take a peek at your peanut butter. You want a natural peanut butter that doesn't have any hydrogenated oils in it. Mushrooms, there's so many different types of mushrooms. Oftentimes my clients that might have a little bit of texture issues had that really bad experience with one mushroom, but there's lots of different ways to consume them, and there's lots of different varieties. And if anyone this year sees a bright, bright, bright orange mushroom growing off the side of a tree, please send me an email. It's my favorite type of mushroom. It's called chicken of the woods, and I will come pick it up. Okay, vitamin A, important for the cell production and growth. It helps protect the surface of the eye. We mentioned that in the previous presentation. Actually, I saw it when the slide came up and it showed blueberries, and I didn't put the blueberries on the table, but these are my groceries. And I did get quite a big bag of frozen blueberries. So really great for this time of year when blueberries aren't necessarily in season yet, but if you buy them frozen, they're really great to put into smoothies. A good formula for creating a balanced smoothie is making sure you have a protein source, but you don't have to automatically go towards a protein powder. That industry is very complicated sometimes to maneuver around. You can just add whole food proteins into your smoothie as well. My favorite is hemp seeds or hemp hearts. The difference between the two is that hemp seeds, when they're crushed open, they're called a hemp heart. And so you could use either one in your smoothie, but 3 tablespoons, it has 10 grams of protein in it, which is really a great amount for a smoothie. You don't need to have 23 grams or 30 grams of protein in your smoothie. Even if you went to the gym and you're doing a workout for recovery, you really need the vitamins and the minerals and a little bit of protein. Actually, I want to tell a story too about pistachios. So recently, I was amazed. I went to a new restaurant, and they had a buckwheat waffle on the menu with pistachios. So I was thinking, oh, okay, it's going to be a buckwheat waffle with pistachios on top of it. Well, I bit into it, and I was like, where are the pistachios? And the pistachios were in the buckwheat waffle. It was amazing. It was a completely different texture. It was a completely different experience, and it was something new. So thinking outside of the box is a really important part of a nutrition practice. I can't say it enough because it will help you kind of diversify the different foods that you're eating and help you, have a variety of them. But that was my favorite way I've ever had a pistachio now, and it just happened yesterday. The best way to hit all of these different senses is to look at your whole nutrition practice. So make sure that you're having enough fiber. You need at least 30 to 35 grams of fiber every day, and that's throughout the course of the day, coming from fruits and vegetables. not fiber supplements. So that if you're on a fiber supplement, try to, work with your health practitioners to see if there's ways that you can just instead incorporate more vegetables and fruits. Improving the variety, so the only way to get more antioxidants is to eat more fruits and vegetables, and make sure that you're eating a variety. And the vitamins and minerals as well. Okay, so I wanted to touch on just a couple other ones, and I'm still good for time. Okay. So these are, does anyone know what this is? It's asparagus, yes. It's funny, whenever I go to the grocery store, the cashiers seem to always ask me questions because they're just like, what, does that taste different? Actually, white asparagus doesn't taste very different from green asparagus. However, it is a new experience. It does have slightly different phytochemicals in it. So those are the components of plants that make it a certain color. So the white asparagus is grown differently than the green asparagus. And I did look it up once. I have never grown white asparagus, but it's grown more in the dark and underground. And then when I personally grow purple asparagus and green asparagus. And this is my first year. It takes 3 years to grow asparagus. And this is the first year that I can harvest my own. So I'm really excited about that. But white asparagus will be out. It's asparagus season in the spring. So that's when we should be consuming asparagus, not all year round, because then it's coming from really far away. And the nutrients aren't going to necessarily be the same as if you were consuming it when it's in season and local. My favorite farm in the area to get asparagus, which you do have to get there kind of early, is Cape Cod Organic Farm. They're right on Route 6A in Barnstable Village, and they have amazing asparagus. Asparagus has been being grown on the Cape for many, many years. However, it used to be one of the main places that actually grew asparagus, but we've developed over a lot of the places that asparagus was grown. We went over the butternut squash. This is another one of my favorites. This is celery root or celeriac. And the best way, you just have to cut the skin off, and then you can cut it up, saute it, roast it, grill it. You can mash it. You can mash it with other root vegetables as well, so like celeriac and carrots or celeriac and potatoes, and it has a little bit of a mild celery flavor to it. We have turnips. So this is, I don't know if it's an Eastham turnip. It might be a Maycomer turnip. But it looks exactly like an Eastham turnip, and we have a variety, a special variety of turnips here on the Cape. And it does have a different flavor than your typical turnips that are more of a yellow color. So if you have had the other turnip and you weren't a fan, make sure that you, try it again, because we have to try something 15 times before our tongues decide if it likes it or not. I don't have the studies behind that, but I like to encourage that. So you can mash a turnip, you can roast it. It's really a great idea to also open up to the idea of having vegetables at breakfast. So with my clients, I like to think of how can we create like a breakfast bowl in the morning. So whether you could saute a variety of different vegetables and kind of design your own home fries, but you don't have to use potatoes. You could use, some broccoli, some turnips, some asparagus, some celeriac, and then you could choose a protein to have with it, maybe put it over a bed of dark leafy greens, and then a fourth of an avocado on top. You'll get a very colorful bowl, but you'll also get a lot of vitamins and minerals. Let's see. We have grapefruit, which is really great, and again, easy to incorporate into breakfast. And then this is one of my favorite citruses, the blood orange. So you're gonna get a different flavor profile a little bit and a completely different color. So it's very, very, you can see like the difference of the color here. And then I did bring some plant proteins in case, because we did mention that increasing plant proteins can be a great way to reduce any type of inflammation. So some of the plant proteins, other than nuts, other than beans, that you might see at the grocery store are tofu. So tofu is just made, it's cultured from soybeans. But you can marinate it in so many different flavors, and it's going to take on whatever you're marinating or whatever flavors you add to it. I do find a huge difference when I take the time and plan a little bit ahead to marinate it ahead of time for a day or two, so it really absorbs a lot of the flavors that you're looking for, and then either baking it or grill it or put it into a frying pan. This is another soy product that is a fermented soybean. So because the soybeans are fermented, you're going to get more protein grams than the tofu. So there's almost there's 16 grams of protein in a serving of tempeh. And this is so many different ways to do it. You can marinate it, you could slice it really thin and pan sear it, or I like to broil it in the oven so it makes it a little bit crispy, depending on what sauce you put over it. This would go really good with the kale pesto. If you don't eat a lot of soy and you don't want to, they do have, what is it called? I guess they call it, it's basically like tofu, but it's made with hemp seeds. So this was actually at Whole Foods today. And then you'll find different brands that are creating all different types of things. Like Beyond Meat is another brand that does plant-based burgers. So great for the season coming. And yeah, that's great. I would love to open it up for questions now. Julie, you pick.
What do you think about spaghetti squash?
I love spaghetti squash. So spaghetti squash is another winter squash, so it's going to have the benefits of all the similar winter squashes. It doesn't have as much vitamin A in it as butternut squash, but it is a really great platform for adding all different types of vegetables to it. So I would say my favorite thing is to add the kale pesto to it. And then on my blog, which is nutritionfromthegroundup.com, I have a recipe for veggie balls, and that goes really well with it. So I would serve the spaghetti squash over a bed of dark leafy greens with my kale pesto and the veggie balls.
What about using PB2 instead of any of the variety of peanut butters that are out there?
I think that's definitely could be an option for someone. I don't think you have to, for whatever reason you're choosing to do the powder, like it does, you could sprinkle it on things, but taking the natural component out of the nut is a process, and I would consider that more of a processed food than having the whole food as is. So personally, I would recommend just using a natural organic peanut butter versus the powder. Yep.
Oh, how about the milks, the soy milk, for example, or the almond milk?
Yeah, I think they're great options. So you could put them, in your oatmeal, or almonds are really high in calcium too. So that's a great way to, you're not going to get as much protein in the nut milks if that's like the reason for using it, but I incorporate them into my smoothies, into my oatmeal. What's that? Personally, I don't drink a lot of soy milk because it doesn't really work very well with my digestion. So again, it's like individual nutrition practices. Try to connect with how your body feels after eating certain foods, but always have the overall goal of incorporating more plant proteins. Nut milks are really fun to make and they're really easy. I think one of the things I run into a lot now is that a lot of the nut milk brands are changing their ingredients so rapidly. And so you just want to try to scan over the ingredients to make sure that there's, no crazy ingredients that are being like thrown in to their product. Almond milk, you would just take a cup of almonds, soak them overnight, or even for a couple hours, put them in a blender or food processor, and then you get a mesh bag and you pour the mixture through the bag with fresh water, and it literally just comes out as almond milk. It's a completely different experience because it actually tastes like almonds. It's amazing. You will never want to go back to drinking the other almond milk. Cashew milk is also another easy one. It's just cashews and water. Yes. Oh, yes, this isn't my book, but this is actually, so visually, I love looking at food as art, and really like connecting to the beauty and the nutrients. But right now at the grocery stores, the new time, it's a special time edition. They have 100 most healing foods, and they have recipes and just beautiful photos of different produce and a really easy, like, how to eat them and why are they good for you. So that's like, I thought that was, I couldn't not buy it. This is what we need to keep in mind too, is what are simple things that we can do throughout our day to increase the vitamins and minerals that need to get to our eyes and our skin and our ears.
Are you able to stay for a couple of questions after I'm done? Yeah. Nicole will be here if you have more questions. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nicole. And so